What's up, guys? Welcome to the On the Screws Golf YouTube channel. If it's your first time here, I'd like to invite you below, subscribe so you can be notified anytime we release a new podcast, which is every Friday about 5 p.m. Eastern Time, or any of the products that we might feature for a review on the page. If you're not already, please head over to our Instagram account, @OTSGolf. Give us a follow there. We connect with a lot of really cool people in the golf community. And if you like the video, please head below, hit that like button, and let me know in the comments section about anything that you might like to see featured on this page. But alright, let's get into the video. Alright, I am here with Terry Hashimoto. Terry, I get that right?
Perfectly.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
We met through Bob Winskowitz from SQAIRZ Golf. So Bob had connected with us, said, you got to get Terry on the podcast. So I said I would love to. I was explaining to Bob, and we had Bryce on, how bad my Canadian accent is at times. So I'm glad I got that right. That's how I start off every episode. So Terry, how are you doing? Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
No, great. And Bob Winskowitz, his name is tough to pronounce, but until you say it a few times in public, then it's easy.
Back when I first kind of started the podcast, I was lucky. I was able to have the director of club building from TXG. His name is Mike Marty Savich, and I did not ask him to pronounce the pronunciation before we had him on, and it didn't go so well. So he was a really great guy. He explained it to me, told me how to say it, and now I talk to Mike all the time, and Mike Marty Savich. So if you're ever looking to get some club building fitting done, go over and see him, Mike at Mike TXG. So Terry, maybe I can just ask you, kind of, we got connected through Bob. You've got an affiliation with SQAIRZ, I guess. I've done a bit of work for them. Maybe you could just tell us about your past. I know you were in the club building or the club creation business, I guess. So maybe just give any of the listeners an idea who you are.
Sure, Don. I graduated from the University of Miami in 1981 and went straight into the golf business. Started the store in Winnipeg called the Caddy Shed. Ended up developing a line of golf clubs called Jazz Golf. Took it public in 2000. Recently, 10, 12 years ago, developed the world's first inertial measuring unit, became SkyPro, and was going to move into the concussion business, developing a combination of inertial measuring units and pressure mapping systems into helmets. And we decided that that market really isn't that good because three reasons: parents don't want to know, coaches don't want to know, and players don't want to know. And we converted that pressure mapping system in the golf from a medical application exactly to the month in September 10 years ago. And we've sold 7,500 units worldwide. It's built in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. And I met Bob because he was looking for a way to validate his shoes and the performance gains thereof. And right at the heat of COVID, so I never really met Bob until 2 weeks ago.
These guys.
Those bad boys right there.
Which I wore today for the first time. I was able to get a pair of the Speeds, and I kid you not, I looked at the other guys in my group, and we were just hitting some balls on the range, and I said, these are the nicest golf shoes I've ever worn in my life. So I know that, when we were talking to Bob, you're saying, the square toe and all the different things, you just got to try them. And he said, send in some out, put them on your feet, give them a try, let me know what you think. And I can confidently say they're easily the best quality shoes I've ever seen. As far as a golf shoe goes, and they're so comfortable. They're unbelievably comfortable. So
the laces alone are one reason why people should buy the shoes. They're easy. Once you tighten them up, they're fixed in position. But there's a massive amount of science behind it if you're interested in that.
Yeah, that's what we got into it with Bob a little bit. And we were talking about some of the spike placements and stuff like that. So if you don't mind, Terry, if you could explain some of the pressure mapping with some of that.
Well, in pressure mapping, the top three flaws in pressure mapping are too much pressure in the toes.
Okay.
Old guys like me don't get pressure to the lead side quick enough, and young kids like you back up too much in their irons. And Bob has been following pressure mapping for the last little while, and a lot of the things that we say, my slogan is, the toes are the brakes, the heels are the accelerators, and the ankles are the propulsion system and shock absorbers, which is right in SQAIRZ apparatus multi. So when you free up the toes, it's like when you squeeze your hand, when you talk to Bob, when you squeeze your hand, it creates tension.
Right.
and you really have no range of motion in your hand. And when your toes are kind of curled down and they're locked in there, it tightens up your feet and you've got no range of motion in your feet. Your ankles are really stiff. But when the toes are curled up or allowed to be free in that square boot there, it really allows the ankle to be effective. The first thing we saw is that the square shoe, the center of mass, was closer to the heel than any other shoe we saw. Now, what's interesting about that, Mac, and you're a good golfer, so if you put all your pressure in your trail toe, you're a right-handed golfer?
Lefty.
All right, so put all your pressure into your left toe and try to take the club back. That
Right.
restricts it. If you put all your pressure into your left heel, you'll feel that range of motion increase. So what the SQAIRZ shoes do, is because they get the pressure more to the heel, it allows the range of motion in your knees, shoulders, and hips to be increased. And that's something that we were able to validate using 3D in conjunction with BODITRAK. We saw that pressure went to the inside of the trail heel. When you get, I want to do this because you're a lefty, when you get outside of your left foot on the way back, you can't recover.
Right.
Because now you're stuck. You're pronating. With the square shoes, because of the stable boot, it keeps the pressure on the inside of the trail heel longer and allows you to get to the lead side faster, which is the number one way to gain distance. And it turns out when we started measuring and validating the distance gains by launch, the performance numbers were just absolutely stunning.
Yeah, like today, I was saying, like, I didn't know my way around the course. I played like a newer course called Wooden Sticks. I hadn't played there before, but one of the things that I noticed when we were first on the range was the ability to kind of transfer. And then as I went through my follow through, this stability, like where I'm kind of like I wouldn't say I have a perfect swing by any means, but I'll step out of a shot here and there. But today it just felt clean. It just felt normal. Like, you called me a young guy, but I'm getting up there, so it's hard to like hold my balance as well as I used to. I still hit the ball a long way off the tee, so it was nice to kind of be able to hold my paws a little bit. And I had mentioned just before we hopped on the call here that this past weekend I actually was able to connect with Jake McNulty and go out and play on a Canadian Tour event. And not he was playing on the event, I was just carrying the bag. So so he's used the BODITRAK system, and I noticed that he had it on his like Instagram before, and so it made me very curious to kind of have that conversation with you, because I noticed how it transfers from, left, if you're left or righty, it doesn't really matter, but it transfers from the heel or the back foot into the front. He's a very analytical teacher. Like, I'm kind of an analytical guy myself, so it's kind of cool to hear that stuff. I like to hear it, but maybe we can roll into that. I know the Canadian Tour is rolling down to PEI, and that's where you are.
That's correct. In fact, several of my old friends from the Canadian Tour have reached out to me on Instagram and Facebook, etc. So I'm looking forward to somewhat of a reunion with some of those guys. But,
nice.
The number one way to gain distance is to get pressure from the inside of the trail heel to the lead side fairly quick. And if you ever look at a fast car like a Ferrari or a Porsche, they've all got big brakes. And fast cars have big brakes. And the cool thing about the SQAIRZ shoes is they're a very, very stable platform.
Yes.
They've got the largest amount of surface contact area between the two transverse arches. The transverse arches are the ball of your foot and where the ankle joins the foot. So right in that area there, between the laces, that's really the area where you really want to make sure you've got a lot of contact surface area and the spikes need to be in the right location. And that's really where SQAIRZ shoes shine, is on that braking mechanism, because you felt like you said that you felt like you were more stable at impact, and you really were. And that's because of the contact surface areas that the SQAIRZ shoes provide, allowing you to brake harder on your lead side. And when you stop fast on your lead side, that allows your hands to rapidly accelerate past impact, and that's what generates more distance. And it's really unbelievably that simple.
Well, and going back to Jake, so after he played the third round, so Saturday, he had mentioned that like, he's a bigger guy, and he was mentioning how his foot is kind of like, he was wearing a brand where his foot was kind of falling over the edge almost, and it didn't allow him to feel stable at all. So he's actually moving down to I think he's moving down to Florida, and I told him, I said, check out SQAIRZ, like, have a look at them, because they're four. I think Bob had mentioned they're 4 millimeters wider than any golf shoe on the market currently, too, right? So I don't know if that's completely accurate. I think he had said 4 millimeters. So I said it's just going to give you that platform, to have a bit more stability, especially if you are naturally a bigger guy, because some of the shoes are built so lean, right? Like I've tried on like some Nikes and stuff like that, and they're very thin, right? So back to the Canadian tour. Are you going to get out and watch some of the events?
I think so. It's I'm not sure what they're allowing to for, but I'm sure I'll find a way. It's very close to my cabin,
Nice.
and it's it's we're I'm double vaxxed and I'm 100%, and I've already traveled into the States once already, so
Very good.
I'm 100% confident that we'll be able to say hello to our friends, and but I'm just not sure what the Mackenzie Tour is allowing
Well,
players to get out of their huddle. So I'll
yeah.
find that out.
On the Sunday, there were a couple hundred fans there or so, I'd say, by the end of the day on Sunday. So it was pretty cool. It was such a good experience to kind of get in the ropes and see some of those players play because they are absolutely incredible.
Well,
Um,
I should mention, Matt, the one thing that you described, I think is really worth noting,
yeah, absolutely.
is the uppers. When you have a soft upper in a shoe, like a running shoe type upper,
Yeah,
you have almost no stability on a lateral rotational basis. There's nothing there for your foot to remain constant in one spot. And the one thing that all great players have in common is their pressure trace. They have excellent dynamic balance. It's interesting on a BODITRAK pressure mapping basis is the best trace in an iron is straight back, straight through. We call that linear. And with a stable shoe, it's much easier to obtain that linear trace than it is with a shoe that's got a very soft upper. Very important to notice because a lot of guys misinterpret a comfort for energy burn. Okay, if you have a very soft upper and your foot's moving all over the place, you're actually burning more energy. So even though like you look like a fairly big guy to me, I'm stocky myself. I'm sure you weigh over 180. And if you were walking 9 holes and your foot was moving all over the place, because the upper is loose, you're burning more energy than if you had a stable platform like in the SQAIRZ. And we did some good testing on that too for Bob. He found that kind of fascinating, actually.
So have you used the squares right on the BODITRAK system that you had created?
Yes, we tested about 300 golfers in total
Wow.
over a 10-week period, and the average distance gain we saw really we didn't publish the maximum distance gains. We published the average. We had to throw away the super high ones because wouldn't have looked like it's the truth.
Right.
But on average, 8 yards was the distance gain that we saw with golfers at all levels. Now, what's interesting though, Matt, is that I followed up on several of what I thought were the guys that we should follow up on. We've seen distance gains up to 17 and 22 yards, and that's legit. We saw guys, and it really depended on what type of shoes they were coming out of and what type of golfer they were. So if we saw a guy that was really moving around laterally, just crazy motion, and wearing a soft running type shoe upper, when we put him in the square shoes, we saw like ridiculous distance gains, but we didn't include them in that data set because it really kind of it looked like we were like almost creating an ad for them when in fact
Yeah.
we were doing an independent research project for them, and that's really when I became interested in talking about.
Well, I'm thinking of two players specifically. So the first one is Bryce. Unfortunately, couldn't make it on the call tonight, but Bryce is my cousin. He chatted with Bob and I, and like I posted a reel the other day from Bryce. So he's probably 6'4", I don't know, 180 pounds, really lean guy. And I've golfed with him a handful of times recently, and I can honestly tell you, I think he had an average driving distance of somewhere between 330 and 340 yards. Like it was insane. I hit the ball a long way and he was 20, 30 yards past me every single drive. Like nothing I've seen. Well, I got to play with some pro players, so it was kind of cool to see some pro players. So I'm interested to see how they will benefit a player at that type of elite level of golf, like because he is, pretty much a scratch golfer, I'd say. And then I'm thinking of my friend Curtis, who was out with us earlier. He is new to golf, just been in the game a couple years, but he has, um, like a lot of us Canadians, he's got a very hockey type of swing, right? So he does rock back and then he
Yeah.
rocks forward, which really hurts him in his drive. Like, so we all start off, on a par 4 or 5, hitting our driver typically. So that's where he struggles the most and what he's kind of trying to hone in on his game. And I'm thinking of how much he's probably rolling back too much, where he's rolling like out of the shoe, kind of like you're
Right,
saying,
right,
right?
right.
So
Well,
I would like to see a player like that benefit them, and I think that's probably where you saw those huge numbers at times as well. Was kind of newer golfers who have a lot of movement in their swing with these shoes, kind of stabilizing them. Because one of the things I can say now, wearing them, is that they do keep you in line. Like you don't. You're very kind of planted, and you are able to get from your trail, like you said, your heel, like your trail side, all the way forward, like as fast as possible, right? So I'm curious. Like it definitely, I believe it. I believe it. I want to check them out. So, but yeah, sorry, I kind of jumped in on you
no,
there,
no,
Terry.
it's just, there's a guy from Ontario. He's finished playing golf now on a professional level. His name is Rod Spittle. He won the Canadian Amateur twice. He played pro golf. Did pretty well on the senior tour there. Just finished about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. But Spittle was about 6'5", and I ran into him at TPC Sawgrass about 3 or 4 years ago. Rod's a perfect example of a guy that's tall, and what's interesting about tall guys is typically their driver is their worst club, and it's because they're scared to move laterally.
Right.
And not all tall guys, but most tall guys, their driver, their fairway woods they love because they can control it. But their the driver, they're scared to move laterally because they're out of balance so quickly. And that's where square shoes really will help that gentleman, that your Bryce, your friend that's 6'4". And with
Yeah.
regards to the beginners, absolutely. When you see a hockey player a guy type move around, and especially because they're slap shotting it, it's going to give them the increased stability in the trail side, allowing them to move the pressure to the lead side very early. But great hockey players know how to break because a properly executed slap shot, although we don't use slap shots too much anymore, you must break on the lead side in order to hit that shot properly. And that's what that you basically stop, you turn your lead skate in, and then that's kind of how you do it with golf too.
Yeah, and I guess that's just what I'm thinking of with the very strong grip, and it's kind of like you can just tell it's kind of like taking like a little snapshot or something, like his swing, and he's working really hard on his game. So I think I'm going to encourage him to check them out because I think I don't know if he's the same size as me, but even just to throw him on for a minute just to see how they feel. But I did want to, Terry, kind of go back to you. You created Jazz Golf, and I've seen quite a few. Like so, I was born in 1987, so I'm thinking you came out in the early 2000s with Jazz, was it?
Well, yeah, Jazz Reach had peaked in around 2002, 3. I got out of it in 2005. It's still out there, but we were originally we had 1,300 green grass accounts, which is pretty much two-thirds of all the golf courses in Canada. And then when Golf Town came on the scene, Golf Town picked up our line,
Nice.
and our green grass business kind of faded away, and we were servicing more of the golf. We were Oshawa had I think you got your first Golf Town in and around, I want to say 7, 8 years ago.
Yeah, that'd be about right. I can picture it because I peaked about the same time as Jazz by the sounds of it. So when I was about 15, 16 years old, my game peaked, and I kind of took a bit of time off it, played some hockey and stuff like that. Got into playing baseball a bit more, I guess, actively anyway. But I've always played golf. Just I never pursued it to that level where I'm realizing now that I probably should have given it a bit more effort. But yeah, I think I peaked at that time too. But
Back in the shaft business, though, I'll tell you, Mac, we built the first series of shafts called swingbalance.com. And it's the first shaft ever to use the ground reaction forces for determining the proper load-unload patterns in a shaft. And it's being built for us in Canada by Accra Shafts out of Burlington. And
nice.
so the combination of footwear and shafts is an important application that BODITRAK very well lends itself to providing objective data for.
Okay, so a couple things. We got to go back to that because that absolutely fascinates me. So right now Bryce is like he's playing an accra shaft, actually the Cam Smith or sorry, Cam Champ spec, and he loves
Yeah,
it. Like he absolutely loves that. So can you explain to me how that kind of happens and how the shaft is built? Like cuz I
sure.
like there's obviously like steel shafts, there's graphite, there's can you like are you guys just doing drivers right now?
We
Fairway
yes,
metals?
but we're doing five different drive. The five key traces in golf are a Z trace. A guy like Bubba Watson would have a Z trace.
Right.
Justin James. Then we have a heel to toe trace, which is the pressure goes from the trail heel straight to the lead toe. Then we have a fish hook trace, which is that's the third least most powerful trace. And then we have the lateral and linear traces, which basically go straight back, kind of up a little bit, and straight forward, and then linear. But what's interesting is you're one of the guys that you like, John Daly. He's linear, and John Daly can still hit it 340. And then we get a guy like Bubba that's a Z trace. He also can hit it 340. But they have total different ways of loading and unloading the pressure in that shaft. And if they use the wrong shaft, they won't optimize the distance and or the accuracy that they can get from that shaft. So one of the things that a lot of people don't know, and I when we were at Jazz Golf, we were building our own shafts in Lincoln, Nebraska. We were partners with a company called SQAIRZ. So I'm basically going back to my roots. I'm 63. Maybe I've got 4 or 5 more good years. This will be the last project I do in golf. BODITRAK's been fun. It's been a great way to learn how to teach, to help pros learn how to teach. But Canada was slow. And, if I was going to criticize or make a complaint or make a suggestion, we offered the CPJ of Canada BODITRAK 10 years ago to this month. And they basically said, well, maybe, but not quite yet. And that's always amazed me how Canada, we can develop technologies. There's so many technologies that have been developed in Canada. And we end up going to the States and other parts of the world to get it out there first. But that's going to change with coaches like Derek Ingram, Canada's Olympic golf coach, men's coach Tristan Malale out your way, the women's golf coach. We work with all of them. And those two guys are early adopters. They can't pull the market. Your buddy is using, that you caddied for, is using BODITRAK. We probably have about 500 customers in Canada, but we have 7,000 customers additional to that worldwide.
Right.
And but Canadians, it's only recently, and I don't spend a lot of time in Toronto. Not that I don't like it. It's just that I've lived in Winnipeg. I live currently in Charlottetown. I've never been a hangout in Toronto guy. And no offense to anybody in Toronto, and send me as many emails as you wish. You're not the center of the universe. Cities like New York, Chicago, they are, and you're not even close to it.
No, Terry, I gotta tell you, my wife and I, we were in Charlottetown. We went down east the summer before last, and we've already planned our retirement down there. So you are definitely not wrong. I think a lot of people in this area have the same feeling that Charlottetown is like we've traveled a little bit, like we've been to like Iceland. Iceland's very cool, but like Charlottetown is it felt like home. We stayed at the I think it's called the King George, and like it was just up from the strip there, and we love driving around. Unfortunately, I didn't get to play any golf in PEI. So when I was like I said, I was chatting with some of the guys who were going down to play in the events, and they were really looking forward to it. Neither one of them had been there, so they were really looking forward to going and checking out Charlottetown. So I let them know as well that I can say confidently the Lobster Barn in Victoria, PEI, is the best lobster roll in all of
Yeah.
Canada.
I'll tell
So,
you what you do the next time you come to PI for any length of time. And this is kind of unique. And keep in mind, I'm a flatliner from Manitoba. You go to the superstore
okay.
and you order them and you buy them boiled, and you bring it home to your apartment room, much like you would buy pre-made sandwiches. And it's the best thing you'll ever get.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the guys out here, they eat them cold, eh?
Yep.
We're used to eating them kind of warm all the time. Not out here. They'll eat them. They eat them cold after they've been cooked. They're delicious.
I absolutely loved it, and I've got a whole the guy who does the intro song for the show. His name's Rory Blaklroy, and he really it's like a spin off of Rory McIlroy, but he really loves lobster rolls as well. So I sent him this note that I had with probably 2 dozen in there. It's ridiculous. So wanted to ask you though, Terry, when you're back in your playing days, you played on the Canadian tour a little bit. You mentioned.
I played 5 years on the Canadian tour. It was pretty good. At the same time I was running 3 stores. Finished 17th in the order of merit. Was my best year. I finished 7th in the PGA Championship. I finished second in an event. Never won one. But I was a good player. I had a great college career actually.
Nice. That's it's cool. Like I had mentioned, I wish I kind of took golf a little bit more seriously at the times that I needed to. So Bryce, who's the co-host on the pod here, his younger brother Blake right now is going through kind of the junior ranks, and we were able to play a couple times recently, and I'm trying to encourage him to kind of take the game seriously because he is extremely good. Like we were playing around at Copetown up here, which is in Dundas, and or Copetown, Ontario, and I think he was like it was pouring rain on us the whole time. I think he was plus 6 or 7 on the front, just couldn't make a putt, just not having a good round. Buckled down, and I think he went 5 under on the back, and like that's kind of what I've seen with these players is like the ability to kind of like just kind of grit it and not like bite down and kind of get through the rounds, right? So it's definitely cool to kind of chat with people who've had that kind of experience before, and I was able to speak with his name was Andy Walker. He's a 1997 NCAA national champion, and he is with VCU right now, but he had come on the podcast and was saying that he had played on the Canadian tour and how much he loved it. So it was a pretty cool experience to get to loop a little bit. But I wanted to ask you, you have obviously like been able to play with a lot of great golfers, connect with a lot of people. I want to know your dream foursome. I love asking people this question. I feel like we learn so much about people. I gave you a little heads up at the start of the conversation, but this typically can stump people. So it doesn't have to be golf related whatsoever, and it has not been in the last few conversations. But if you were able to play golf, who would be your dream foursome, Terry?
Let's go with Sir Nick and John Daly.
Good answer.
The SQAIRZ team.
Good answer. I love it. And I've got a bib now from the Canadian tour. I was able to take it home kindly. So I will pick up the bag, and I'll come and I'll just caddy for you guys because I would love that. That would be
I'd love to see you there.
that would be amazing. So are you still doing some work with SQAIRZ right now at all, Terry?
We just we're down in New Hampshire. We stayed with Bob for 2 nights and his lovely family, and we're going to continue on the program. We're going to keep on looking for new ways to help them design shoes. Now we're
Nice.
talking about. I've always been a big. What got me excited about the program, Mac, was about 5 years earlier we had developed the shoe fitting program using pressure mapping for foot joint, and
Okay.
I pitched them that you ought to have a different shoe for your trail side than your lead side. They liked it, but they didn't know how to execute it. Bob's looking at how to do that right now without making a lot of changes. And your trail side is a completely different objective. It's different for your trail shoe than your lead side. And we think that we may have come up with a clever way to help even enhance the existing benefits of SQAIRZ shoes. So
Okay.
our relationship is continuing to grow, and because we've developed new ways to fit shafts, they ride well with SQAIRZ and BODITRAK. Well, but I gotta tell you, if I have 30 seconds, I want to tell you
Go for
the
it. Go.
first time I went to Oshawa.
I don't know if you can tell, but you were just telling me that, and the wheels were on video right now. So if anybody's listening to this one, head over to YouTube because you could just see if you scroll 30 seconds back, the wheels were just turning when you were telling me that about the different shoes for your lead side and your trail side. That was pretty neat. That's definitely interesting. I like that.
Well, it's a reality. Your trail foot has a completely different role than it does your lead foot. The entire purpose of the lead foot, the shoe, should be to brake. And your trail side's the lead side. It's got to get pressure to the lead side quick. I'm a big physiology guy. I can't even look at my swing when I was in my 20s and early 30s, and even can recognize it. It's just so different than what I do now. but yet the pressure pattern can still be optimal regardless of your physiology. And what's really unique about pressure mapping is there is a optimal pressure trace, and 100% of all the tour winners in their irons have a similar trace, nearly verbatim. Yet their swings look totally different.
Of course.
So their physiology is different, so they get there differently, but the trace is the same. So it's the only common denominator in golf, period, to optimize your play. And SQAIRZ Shoes does an excellent job of helping you optimize that pressure pattern. And that's something that really can't be stressed enough and or overlooked.
All right, so we got to hear this Oshawa story. Let's hear it.
All right, so I was trying to qualify for the Canadian Open when I was in and around 18. And I was staying at my aunt's house in Toronto, and we were playing at the Toronto Country Club, which is, we had to take, my aunt she made me take the GO train, and we took it out there. And then coming back after a tough, grueling round, I think I shot 73, I didn't make it. I fell asleep, and I ended up in Oshawa, and I was only like 18. And I'll never forget the guy, because I didn't have a lot of money on me. I had my golf clubs in me, and I had a bright orange and red shirt. I'll never forget it, because I always like nice shirts. And the guy said, well, just sit on the train. We'll get you back to the GO station, or to the Central Station. And the people on Oshawa treated me really nice. I was just like 19 on the outside. And I never forgot Oshawa, how good the people were. Because at that time, the GO train stopped in Oshawa. I don't know if it still does or not, but that's the truth.
You know what? It still does, and I'm about 15 minutes east, and they're just working right now to develop it to come further. But that's a pretty cool story. I like that one. That's I've heard that from a few people, that they've fallen asleep and missed their stop, whether that be like after a Jays game or a night out at a concert, having a couple pops or whatever. But that is a great segue. I know you have not tried it yet, Terry. I'm going to try and find a way to get you some down in PEI, but we have a swing oil segment hydrated by Triple Bogey Brewing. So you're pretty familiar with the area. They are founded by Jeff Tate and his team, his family, the great team at Triple Bogey, do a lot of good work. They're in a lot of courses around Canada, heading down to the States now. And it's golf's beer up here, just in London, Ontario. So you'd be pretty familiar with that area.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Good luck to Triple Bogey. That's fantastic.
Yeah, they are a great beer team. So I just want to ask you a couple questions. You can fire an answer back at me. Don't think too much about them, and then we can let you go, because I know you probably got a great sunset to watch down there in PEI right now.
Sounds good.
Have you ever had a hole in one?
Yes, and I've only had. They all were in competition.
How many have you had?
3.
3. Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about the first one?
First one was a 1-iron to win my first Manitoba Amateur. I shot 9 under. I think I won by 27 strokes that tournament, or 25 strokes that tournament. The second one was at the Q School qualifier, and the third one was also at a Q School qualifier.
Nice, right when it matters too. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Favorite course in Canada?
Tough question. I'm going to take the National.
Okay. All right. I like it. I think that was Carlo Koliakovo. So Carlo used to play for the Leafs, and I think that was the one that he had mentioned as well. Favorite club in your bag? Is it this 1-iron?
No. I have a 6-wood that I've held on to for many years.
Okay.
I've been using a 5 and a 6-wood when they weren't popular since a little boy. I've always liked to have that utility club in my bag, and it's called a troubleshooter. It's an original jazz troubleshooter. And it'll never leave my bag as long as I'm playing golf.
Love it. Okay. Favorite golf shoes?
SQAIRZ.
What a layup. Mine too. Thank you so much, Terry. This is Terry Hashimoto, and that is the Swing Oil segment, hydrated by Triple Bogey Brewing. Thank you so much, Terry. We got to get you some of those down there, because if you're having a pop, I know we're having one right now, but I'm sure Jeff's trying to make his way down to Atlantic, Canada, and he's the founder of Triple Bogey. So I'll let him know. We got to get some down there.
Mac. Thank you, and congratulations on your success, and all Triple Bogey. Be glad to send you some mussels in exchange for the beers. Great on you.
Perfect. So before I let you go, Terry, can you let us know if anybody's got any questions for you? I know you guys are just getting you're kind of developing the shafts, or if anybody wants to ask you about the BODITRAK or the SQAIRZ shoes, how do we get a hold of you?
Well, in either case, swingbalance.com. Swing balance, spelt the way they are meant to be spelt, all one word.com. We've got a contact a location there, address there. You can just reach out to me. I get back quick. I don't sleep. And I'm going to drink a lot of triple bogeys when I get them.
That's perfect. That's perfect. I will, what I'll do, Terry, is when I post up this episode, it should be up within the next couple of weeks. I'll put a link down in the bio. So anybody listening to this, if they want to go check it out, you said they were being manufactured in Canada?
Yeah, by Accra, they're in Burlington.
Love it. So
it's a good story.
yeah, anybody who wants to check out a bit more of them, I will post a link down below us in the bio. And, of course, thanks for following OTS Golf on Instagram.
Hey, no, I appreciate that, Mac. Thank you very much, and continued success.
Is out in my ball in the course where I tee up. I lose the ball and I re-up. I miss a fairway, I probably end up in the ocean or maybe the beach. And I'm on a par 5 and I'm finna go reach it. Second was blind, I ain't see it. Feel like it might be an albatross.